Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I'm your host, Chris Cosentino. We are here to talk about people that inspire, and all my guests are inspiring in so many different ways. And I'm really looking forward to digging deep into how they got to where they are, to the top of their game, how hard they've worked, how much they've given up, and how they're giving back. So without further ado, here's our next guest. Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. And I am here today with Tournament of Champions Season 2 winner, Maneet Chauhan. Maneet, welcome.
Thank you so much.
I am super excited to have you here. I think so many people have seen you. I mean, you're everywhere. Let's just be honest. I don't know how you managed to do it all. You've been, the shows galore. Like, I can't even, I'm like looking online. I'm like, how many shows is she doing right now? How many are you doing right? Let's put that into context. So Tournament of Champions Season 2, Season 1, Grocery Games, Chopped.
Supermarket Stakeout.
Stakeout.
I just hosted Holiday Wars last season. You know what? My big problem is that I can't say no. I think I live with that big feeling of FOMO. So whenever anybody asks me anything, I'm like, yeah, sure. and then I figure out that how am I logistically going to do it? Because there is, yeah, sure, that is in New York. Yeah, sure, that is in Santa Rosa. How do I get from point A to point B? We'll figure it out. So yeah, but the interesting part, Chris, is that it's taken a real long time to get there. Like, with you also, I'm sure that you realize that it is what people see right now is the tip of the iceberg, right? They don't see what all has gone into reaching here. It's been years and years of perseverance. It's been years of sweat, blood, tears, disappointment, and then but I think what really works, and that's why I always, whenever I meet you, we get along so famously because there is that streak of resilience and the streak of this is what we need to do.
And
I think
we're stubborn.
We are stubborn, yes, and it's an incredible quality.
I think you said you hit the nail on the head with it. It's like everybody sees the tip of the iceberg, but nobody sees what's under the water and how big the iceberg is under the water. And that's what's keeping it afloat. And I think, where you were not born in the US, correct?
No, I was born in India.
And you came to the US to go to school, correct?
Yeah, I came here to go to the CIA, which is the Culinary Institute of America, before anybody thinks I'm more exciting than a chef.
Isn't it funny? Like, such a great Culinary Institute of America, great, just bad acronym, guys, bad acronym.
Oh no, so good. Because at CIA, when I had just joined, I think there's this sense of a wicked sense of humor, which I think all of us in the industry have. That's why we do what we do. We are crazy enough to do what we do. But there used to be at the library, there was an FBI, which was the Food Beverage Institute.
They definitely had a good time with it. So what got you started? Like, what made you say, I want to be 100% involved with food?
So the simple answer is my obsession and love of eating. And that pretty much started, there is this story that I was, a small baby and I still hadn't started on solids. And my older sister, my mom was in the kitchen making aloo parantha, which are spiced potato stuffed flatbreads. And it's like iconic, and like my mouth is watering talking about it. And she was in the kitchen, and my sister goes running to my mom. She's 3 years older than me, and goes and tells mommy that the baby is eating the parantha and she really likes it. And mom is like, oh my God. And she goes running and my mouth is stuffed with the parantha and I'm eating it and enjoying it. So I blame my sister. I'm like, you gave me the first taste of blood. Like that was love at first bite, or I don't even think I had teeth, so I couldn't bite. But that was it. And I grew up in this really small community in India. My dad was an engineer, mom, a school principal. And the fun part is that each and every state in India has a very distinct cuisine of its own. So we grew up in a community where our neighbors, like we are from North India, so that's the cuisine that was made at home. But our neighbors were from South India, East India, West India, like different states. So I would finish dinner at home, go over to my neighbors' houses, tell them that my parents hadn't fed me. So can I eat with you guys? And I literally had a permanent place on their dining table. But the fun part was not only eating the food, but it was, you know, with the aunties sitting in the kitchen and seeing them cook. Why are you heating the oil? Why are you adding the curry leaves? Why? And that was incredible. So later on, when I got a little bit older, whenever people would call to invite my parents for dinner, they're like, oh, yeah, why don't you guys come at 7 o'clock? Maneet, send her at 3 o'clock so that she can help us cook. And that, I think, was the most valuable foundation that I could have gotten, because it was just, you know, that's it, it's food. And later on in life, I realized that it was beyond food. It was the fact that I could connect with anyone with this language called food. And even though I didn't have to speak the same language as them, that camaraderie, that connectivity was because of food. And that's why I love food, because to me, it's more about just the taste, it's that connection that it forms.
I think that's really, I say this all the time, and I think it's really, really important. It's like food transcends all boundaries. Family feuds, politics, religion, and all the other happy horse shit, right? Like I tell people, think about having Thanksgiving without the family bullshit and the arguments, right? Like that's what we do for a living. We give taste memories, we give experiences, we create connectivity. We're very fortunate. Like we don't pull teeth, we don't put zeros and ones in a sequential order so you know your phone app works. We give you an experience, and I think that it's powerful. Like I hear like you talking about going to someone's home to get to try somebody else's food, and like that was a pretty good sneaky way of doing it. Saying your parents didn't feed you.
Not much has changed, Chris. That's all I can say.
But like that feeling of like going somewhere to learn something, whether it be from a grandma or an auntie, and that's very cross culture. Everybody, Italians, that's how the Italians do it. That's how the English did it. Everybody, the abuelas in Mexico teaching, you know, the next generation to make tamales. I love that part of what our careers have given us, is that connectivity through food. And it's a constant learning thing. I mean, look behind me. I mean, it's like crazy.
It's so true. You know, I've got to tell you this really funny thing. A couple of years back, I went to Peru. I had gone for work, but we, added a couple of days before that so that we could go to Machu Picchu. So we went to this small town called Urubamba, which is near Cusco, and there's a train that goes to Machu Picchu from there. So we reach over there. We were with a couple of friends, Vivek, my husband and friends. They were jet lagged. They're like, we're going to take a nap. And I'm like, oh, we are in a new country. How can you take a nap? I walked to the local mercado, small village. Vivek found me an hour later. I was making these potato croquettes and selling potatoes with this old grandmom, right? And he's like, what's going on? And the ironic part is like, I don't know a word of Spanish, or let's say my Spanish is not fit for polite company. And she didn't know any English, but we still connected. And that moment till date gives me goosebumps, because that is such a profound moment when you realize that, you know, we all have the same like basic obsession of food. And that was just like, yeah, just so fun.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Like, can you go on vacation? Like, I can't. It's very hard. For years, Tati, before Easton was born, my son who's now 17, before he was born, we would go on vacation and I would stage. She would go to the museums and I would stage. It really wasn't I would say that's not really fair. She would go to museums, she would go to the Tate Modern, and I would go stage with Pierre Kaufman at La Tante Claire. Or we would go to Paris and I would knock on doors with a knife kit under my arm and try to work. Are you the same way?
I used to be the same way, but I am changing a lot right now, because it is, I think I realized, I reached a stage where I realized, there is that hunger for us to learn, right? We want to learn so much. We want to go ahead and just do all of this. And I realized that even if I spend my entire life, each and every second that I have in life learning something new, I will still have scratched the surface of food, right? So I'm like, I need to enjoy it. So to me, I go and I eat incessantly. Like, all of these places, I'm like, oh my God. Like, even over here, when I landed in Tucson, the first thing I was like, where can I go and eat? What can I go and eat? Like, that entire list. So to me, the big thing is that I don't starch, but I eat. And it is like just such a guilty obsession and pleasure. So yeah, that's what I do.
You're a whole menu orderer just like me, right? You like going, I want to try that, I want to try that, I want to try that. They're like, you've ordered too much, man. You're like, I know,
And
just bring it. Bring it.
That's why I hate going and eating alone. Like, I want a big group and I want to order one of everything so that you can taste it. And it's just that, yeah, like just amazing. That eating.
The first time I went to Chicago, I was I'll never forget. I went to Chicago for the first time, and Paul Kahn had just opened the Publican. And
oh my God, yes.
It's like, it's bigger than a legal page, folks. It's huge. I sat down and they had these huge communal tables. The server comes over and I said, I'll take one of everything. And the guy looks at me and goes, are you fucking out of your mind? And I was like, nope, just do one of everything. And the food started waving. The people around me are looking, 2-3 bites, passing it on to folks, just passing. And that's how I met Paul Kahn. I'd never met Paul before. I'd never met Donnie. And then they get this phone call. They're like, this dude ordered the entire menu. You might want to come over and see who he is. And today, still to this day, Paul and I are best of friends.
Oh
and Donnie, and they still to this day laugh about that moment. They rolled me out. I'll be really honest. They rolled me out of there. But it was one of those like, oh man, because everything, it's amazing when you go someplace and you want to try it all.
That is so true. I mean, yes, I remember I was in Chicago when they had opened, and it just was like all my friends, my sister, my brother-in-law. I'm like, this is what we are doing, and they're like, oh God. So yeah, amazing.
So let's kind of, we're all over the place today, but this is fun. Like, I want to talk about your trajectory and like how you went and where you were in Chicago for a while. You were there for quite a bit of time, and now you're in Nashville. So how did that road go?
So right after graduation from the CIA, I had done my hotel management, my bachelor's in hotel management in India from the best institute over there, and then came here to go to the CIA again. It's got a reputation. So I was on the top of my world. I mean, I'm like, God, I have the best education under my belt. Like, the world is my oyster, right? And I, of course, because this was something that I loved, I graduated with each and every award in my class. I've put in my effort. I used to volunteer for everything at CIA. I'm like, this is it. I had come here on a student visa, right? And then reality really set in, because I got job offers from everywhere. And when I went for the interviews or the stages, as soon as I would say that, my paperwork needs to be sponsored, and even I'm like, I'll pay for it and all of that, nobody would touch me with a barge pole. Because, I mean, think about it. This is 2000, right? 2000, the industry had just started being cool, right? It still wasn't cool at that time. And and that was like, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And till that time, I wanted to be a pastry chef, because in India, you really didn't have good pastry chefs. So my entire education is in baking and pastry arts, right? All the savory cooking all the savory cooking I do is thanks to the aunties and just, just right.
But so, that's a total polar opposite. We're talking, and I say this over and over again, recipes in savory are guidelines. Recipes in baking and pastry, don't fuck with them. You follow the rules, because it won't work. So you went from that world of don't change a recipe back to savory, where everything that you learned was by hand or by pinch or by eye. That's crazy.
It is, because it was really interesting, because at that time, My uncle and aunt were opening a upscale Indian restaurant in close to Philadelphia, in a small town called Cherry Hill. And they were like, listen, if you want, we are looking for chefs and we'll be happy to do your paperwork and stuff. The last thing I wanted to do was work at an Indian restaurant, because I had gone to Indian restaurants. They had all of these like $8.95 all you can eat buffet. And I'm like, that's not what I want to do. But I also am the kind of person who's like, okay, let's take this opportunity and use this as a stepping stone to figure out what I'm going to do next. That, I think, was the pivotal moment where when we opened the restaurant, I'm like, why am I so ashamed of the Indian food over here, right? I grew up with the most beautiful Indian food, right? To us, farmers market were the only way to shop. To us, seasonal cooking was the only way to cook. Red carrots available for only 2 weeks in the entire year, and we would enjoy it at that time. We would pickle it, preserve it, and that was it, right? And now these are all fads, right? I'm talking about at that time. So I'm like, you know what? This is my opportunity. This could be my calling to go ahead and give Indian food the beauty and the legitimacy, which so far it has, like, everybody looks at it as ethnic food, $8.95. Once you eat it, you're going to sleep for 2 days because it's so heavy, so fatty. I'm like, that's not the truth, right? Let's show the beauty and the diversity of Indian food. And that's, I think, when I literally...
Oh no, she froze. No, not now. This is so good. Maneet, can you hear me? You froze. Maneet. Oh man. This is so good. And we just froze. Maneet. Maneet, you froze. You froze.
I did?
You did. I was like, no.
Oh my God, what?
It froze. You were like mid-sentence and it was like, the last thing you said was that I wanted to give Indian food its legitimacy because the perception was it was heavy and you were going to sleep after it.
Yeah, because everybody thought that it was fatty.
And you freeze again. Oh, whew, there we go. Whew. You're having service issues.
No, I think what I'm having is earphone issues. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. I know you can't edit, but this is the fun part about it.
I know. This is why I'm so excited.
Okay.
There's so much technology nowadays. We're so weird. Oh, she just hung up. Oh, bummer. Man, we're having quite the day. All right, Maneet, you'll be back. There she is. There she is, everybody. She didn't throw me to the wolves.
I am so sorry. I think this is why I don't like to use these AirPods. And I was like, no, I think it'll work today, but it's apparently it's not. So yeah, the good old, this will be fine.
You know what? They work. They're wires. You don't use up as much juice and you don't defer the Wi-Fi.
I agree. So apologies about that. Okay.
It's all right. That's all part of the new world.
I know. But so that was it. And I think that's where I really started that quest of getting legitimacy and respect to Indian food and cuisine. I mean, look at it. We are the second largest population in the world. And the fact is that it still had a bad reputation over here. So that's what it started. And this was like, Chris, I'm talking 2001, 2002. And
at that point, for the public that doesn't know right now, there was one chef in the US that had that kind of respect, and that was Madhur Jaffrey.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, I cooked for her once and I was shaking in my boots. Shaking, so scared cooking for her. So
oh my God. Oh my God.
And I wasn't cooking I was not cooking Indian food, folks. I was just cooking me food. It was horrifyingly scary.
But I mean, amazing. Like at that time that she started that, that path, which like, again, then there was Chef Lloyd Cardoz, like, Chef Raji, like there's so many of these, like who had this, like, let's go ahead and set the path. And now it's exciting. Like now Indian food has reached that stage where there are all of these, like it's on the New York Times best list. Like there is all of that happening, which makes it so exciting. So anyway, so after 4 years, we expanded. I learned a lot about the basics of Indian food. Went to Chicago. Over there, like you were saying, knocked doors, found an opportunity, was working at a restaurant which was, Indian and Latin fusion, from 4 years over there, then went to Chicago. And then I think the time when the real switch happened was around 10 years ago, when my daughter was born. And that was the time when I was like, there is a responsibility of having a kid, where you realize that, oh my God, you are the closest role model to them. And especially coming from India, I am where I am because of the amount of support that my parents and the faith that my parents put in me, right? In India, it's not easy being a girl child, right? And especially having a daughter, I'm like, I want to show you that you can do anything that you want. So to me, she was the biggest strength. It wasn't that I'm going to take a step back. It was, I am going to show her that the world is hers to take and go in whatever direction that she wants. So that was the time that I had just competed. That's where Food Network story started, because I competed on Iron Chef against Chef Morimoto. I also say that I came a respectable second among two people, which is better than saying that I lost. From there, I was invited to be on the next Iron Chef. From there, they invited me to be a guest judge on Chopped. And then the next season, they invited me to be a permanent judge on Chopped. This was around like 10 years ago. And it's been a journey, because from there, Vivek, we did our undergrad together. We had worked briefly. He went to Southeast Asia. He was like the businessman of the year, like he was Indonesia, Singapore, Hong Kong, China. He was doing his stuff over there till, and this is before FaceTime. This is before Skype. Like I used to go to, the gas stores, gas stations, get those international calling cards, scratch it. Like we laugh the amount of money that we spend on international phone calls, because we used to talk to each other every day and we didn't see each other for 4 years. So talk about long distance, right? This is what it was. And we laughed that we could have bought a house. Forget about a down payment on a house. We could have bought a house. The amount of money we wasted on phone calls. But then he came over here, and then we decided to start a business, together. So, while all of this was happening, I get a phone call from Nashville, like, hey, would you like to open a place in Nashville? And Vivek and I, we look at each other, we're like, who the beep goes to Nashville? Because at that time, Nashville wasn't as cool as it is right now. But we are also the kind of people that explore each and every opportunity that comes our way, because, it would be stupid for us not to. So we came to Nashville and we just fell in love with not only the city or the people, but also the scope, the business scope that the city afforded us. Because at that time, the big tier cities, yes, definitely you can do food over there, you can open restaurants, but we realized that it is the second tier cities where the scope of growth is so much more. The plan was to open the restaurant, commute from New York, because Vivek had all his restaurants over there. Nashville is the South. The 6-month project took around 2 years. Along the way, we found out we were expecting baby number 2. So the day we opened the restaurant, November 18th, 2014, our son, Karma, decided to be born on the same day, 3 months early. So he was born in the morning at 5 o'clock, and we opened the restaurant at 5 p.m. in the evening. So he was in the NICU for 3 months, which was a very, it's a really, as it is, having a kid is a big, experience, but having a preemie who is 2.5 pounder, who weighs less than a gallon of milk, it's a big thing to go through. And at that time, both Vivek and I were like, if he's so adamant in being a Nashvilleian, who are we to stop it? So that's what we did. We went to New York, wrapped up our house over there, moved over here. And then we're like, we are going to make the best of this situation. So we've been here for 7 years, Karma and Chauhan Ale and Masala House, which is our restaurant. In 7 years, we've opened 4 restaurants. We have 4 breweries on a brew park, which is like on 83 acres of land. Yeah. And that's it. So I think we're doing okay.
You're keeping busy.
We're keeping busy.
And amongst all of this, let's put this into bigger perspective, right? You're traveling for the shows, you're raising 2 children, and you're managing all these people at all these different restaurants. That's a big undertaking. And I don't know, and people, I don't want anybody to think that's a small task, because managing restaurants, you're ultimately, every restaurant is just a whole different group of children, right? And I don't mean that derogatorily, but you're managing different people at all these different locations who require different management techniques. There's different styles of food at each restaurant. So it requires all different thought process. So you walk in one door, you got to put this hat on, and you walk into the next door, you put that hat on, then you go home, and then you take all the hats off and you put on the mom hat. And then, that's a lot.
It is. But I think that's my personality. If I wouldn't be doing like 50 things at one given moment, I think that I'm slacking. And I think that's what it's all about.
Do you have ADD?
You know what? I think I do.
I just ask because I do,
myself.
And it's a known.
Right.
I've talked about it for years, but I think that It's very common in our industry, because we're like the dog in Up. When somebody says squirrel, we look and go run towards it. It's like we're always, what? Yeah. Who? What? Yeah. It's.
I know. It's so funny. Like if I am at home, right, at times, and it drives Vivek batshit crazy, right? So I'm at home and I'm looking after the kids. I have my computer, I have my iPad, I have my phone. I'm doing something on the computer. On the phone, I'm doing something else. iPad, something is going on. There's television going on in the front. There is food being cooked while I'm keeping an eye on the kids' homework. Like there is all of this going on. And he's like, why can't you do one thing at a time? I'm like, stop being jealous that you can't do more than 2 things at a time. So we always have this like constant. He's like, one thing. And I'm like, nope.
That's amazing. It's amazing you're able. And the thing is you do it all so well. And it comes off with grace, and it's just so thoughtful. And that comes through not only in the way we've had conversations, but your food and your staffing and all of the above. And it's really apparent. And I think that's really important, because, our industry's hard. Let's be honest. It's not an easy road. And you've definitely set what you said you were going to do. You're showing your daughter that she can do whatever she wants.
Yeah. I hope that she does.
Does she want to cook?
She thinks that cooking is being on television. So that is a different conversation. But she's also 10. So I'm like, at times I've got to remind myself, I'm like, okay, give her time. I'm not like, no, life is all about the mise en place. If you do your homework, you will ace your test. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm sounding like such a geek. But yeah, it's every day. Each and every learning lesson that I give them is around the kitchen, right? I'm like, see, your dish is not going to be good if you're going to do everything last minute, if you don't have your station set. And they're like, what are you talking about, woman? So yeah.
They're like, you do that every day when you're on grocery games. It's a free-for-all.
Exactly.
So actually, I want to get into this, because we've both been there. We've competed. So we've both done Next Iron Chef. We've both done Iron Chef America. We've both done, you've done way more grocery games than I've ever imagined. Like I've done 2. And we've both been in tournament champions. I don't think you realize the reality of it truly is the moment. There is no BS. There is no fudging it. When they say go, you go, and it's it. Like, and if you blow it, you blow it.
I mean, it is, oh my God, I still have PTSD thinking about TOC. But you know what? The interesting part about these tournaments or these competitions is that you have to realize this is not a test or an exam that you can cram for overnight and be ready for it the next morning, right? That's not what it is. This is a culmination of your entire career. This is a culmination of everything that you've learned. This is a culmination of your foundation, of each and every nugget of information that you have stored in your mind, which translates into food. And that is what it's all about. And I keep on, like, there's so many people, they're like, like we talk about it, right? We were talking about it yesterday, where people are like sitting on, on the sofa eating some, chips and stuff. And they're like, oh, if I was there, I would have done that. No, you would have not. You have no idea. Like that clock, those crazy ingredients, those combination, working in a kitchen that you are not familiar with, like, with equipment that you're not familiar with. To bring all of that together is insane. So anybody who ever competes on a food competition, my hat's off. I don't care if you're the first person to be eliminated. You had the balls, you had the guts to do it. Hats off to you.
And I think it's really funny. It's kind of like those folks that yell at the sport teams, like that the player's an idiot, yet they probably couldn't even throw the ball across the street.
Exactly. I mean, they don't
believe you blew
really...
it. You're a fool. Why didn't you put lime in there instead of orange? Like, come on, dude. What are you talking about? It's really funny that's because, and I'll tell you, having competed and done all these things, and I definitely know, I do have a neighbor who loves to yell at the TV during sporting events. Like, I can hear him across the street with our doors closed and our windows closed. Like, he's so loud. But like, and I'm guilty of it too. Like, I'll watch bike races and I'll start like, go, 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 because I want to see the sprint, until I physically got on my bike and went to Europe and rode the same course and then watched it physically the next day, the same stuff that I rode, that the riders came by me. I was just like, I'm never yelling at the TV. I'm an idiot. I'm useless. These guys are so fast. They went by me. It literally felt like a locomotive was going by me. They were going by me so fast on bicycles.
Oh my God,
that's
amazing.
But yet I was the guy that was yelling at the TV. So like, I get where people are coming from because they get caught up in it and it's the excitement, but it's really hard. And then you got people throwing in shenanigans in the mix of it. And when I say that, I don't mean Brian Malarkey. I mean like the tricks that they play with us. It's like, hey, here's your challenge. And oh, by the way, we're going to tie 3 of your fingers together so you can't really hold a knife properly. Or, you can't use this. And, oh, there's only 1 wheel on your sharpening cart. It's like.
God, yes. Or a tiny small bag and you get all your ingredients in that, or $15 and that's all that you have. So yeah, and make a decadent dish. So,
make it decadent. Here's $15. Okay, well, decadent. Okay, I got butter and cream, and there we go. I got nothing left.
That's decadent enough.
You have a stick of butter coated in cream. How decadent is that? Oh, wait a second. We have salt. That's for free on our station.
That's free. Yeah. Oh, and there is some red wine vinegar to give it the acidity. So yes, it'll be a balance of flavors. Oh my God.
We laugh about this because these are all the things that have been thrown at us. And we can laugh at each other about it and together with it because it's true. I mean, but that's what makes it fun. I mean, and are we just gluttons to keep going back? Like, I still haven't figured this out.
I think we are. I think we're crazy. We're cuckoo bananas.
I mean, okay, I want to ask, how many times have you come home from competing and looked at your husband and go, that's the last one?
Oh, every time.
Okay, so I'm not the only one that does that?
Oh, every time. Not only like when I come home, it is like, TOC, right? Like when you're waiting behind the door, right? Yeah. That moment, every time, right? And now I have competed, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like 7 times I've competed in the kitchen, right? In the TOC kitchen. And every time I do that, I'm standing behind the door. This is before I compete and before I go out to when, guy tells who has won. I call him up. I'm like, this is it. Never doing it again. Never doing it again. He's like, yeah, okay, sure. We'll talk about it once you come back home. So yeah.
I say this. I do the same thing. I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm over it. I can't keep competing. I'm tired of it. And then they call you and you're like, yeah, this is great. I want to go. Cool. Like, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this to myself?
If you figure it out, let me know.
I think we need to have Competitors Anonymous.
I swear, oh my God, so.
Hi, my name's Chris, and I'm an avid competitor.
I know. Oh my God, that'd be so fun. Oh, we have
that could be
really
its own
big
show,
group.
Competitors Anonymous.
Total show. Oh my God. See, now we're onto something.
Our own reality, Competitors Anonymous.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
I've competed this many times and I just can't say no.
Repeat after us, Chris. N-O, no. N-O, yes.
Please, Chris, can you tell us, Maneet, please tell us, how does competing make you feel?
I'm crying in the inside and on the outside right now. Oh my God, this is too funny.
So I want to talk about books. You have 2 in print, and if I'm correct, you have 1 electronically.
Yes, I have. I'm a part of the electronic book, but my book, which just came out right now, it is the newest one. Is called Chart.
And you won an award for that.
I did. I won an ISCB award for that.
Which is pretty amazing.
It's exciting. It is. It's Indian street food, and it's dedicated to all the vendors in India who made our journeys so delicious. And Indian street food is just it's such a vast world. Like we went to India to get information and to do the photography for the book. Chris, we were there for only 7 days because that's the only time. My co-author Jody Eddy and the photographer Linda Zhao, it was 3 of us. 7 days. We went to 6 different cities. We ate 660 dishes because every time we would eat something, Jody would write it down. So in the end, the last day we were sitting over there and we were counting each and every dish. 660 dishes in 7 days. Yeah.
I want to go.
I have a problem.
I've never been.
Oh my God.
I've never been to India.
Listen, if you ever go to India, you've got to go with me. Absolutely.
You know,
we'll have so much fun. So much.
Tatiana and I have been talking about wanting to go to India. There's places that we want to go so bad, but that one is daunting to me because there's so much. I want to see the spice markets and I want to taste things and and the variations of things, like you mentioned earlier, you had neighbors that were cooking Southern and then there's Northern and but everything's so, oh my God, like my head wants to explode because it's just so daunting for me.
The interesting part is like the last time we went to the spice market in Delhi and I was standing over there and I saw at least 7 or 8 different spices, which I've never seen in my life.
Really?
And I'm like, what is this? What are you doing? What do you use this for? And of course they were like, get out. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy all of this. And I literally, then I came back because regional, and the interesting part about Indian food is that it is so influenced by the world. Right? Like the northern Indian food, which everybody thinks is Indian food, is very Persian inspired, right? Or in Eastern India, we've got Tangra cuisine, which is Indian Chinese. And in my mind, the best Chinese that there is, or, French influenced Pondicherry or, Portuguese influence Goan cuisine, or like, the Anglo, like the continental food, which is, Anglo-Indian. So there is so much that there is to explore. It's mind boggling.
Which, that's so really interesting because we're talking about fusion of cuisine, and unfortunately fusion, that term of fusion food is awful, right? And it's been used so disparagingly for so long. the traveling of cultures across or bordering cultures or bordering countries change food all over the world. And that truly is what fusion food is, like you just spoke about.
I mean, like, at times I get this really major like backlash from people, and especially Indians, like, this is not authentic Indian food. And I'm like, tell me what is authentic Indian, because chilies are not authentic to India, right? They were gotten by the Portuguese. Tomatoes are not authentic to India. Potatoes are not authentic to India, right? And these are things which are foundation of Indian cuisine. I'm like, if you talk about authentic food, it'll probably be raw meat and raw fruits and vegetables, which are grown in that area. And that's authentic food. Like even fire, right? Like, think about it. So to me, I'm like, in the end of the day, authentic is what is authentic to me, right? And there is this big charm at with the history and with the evolution of different things. But even now, if I am making what people perceive as an authentic dish, it is going to change because of the ingredients that I get in Nashville, because of even the cooking techniques, right? I have a blender. I can use a blender to make a chutney, but it'll taste different from the olden times when a wooden mortar and a pestle was used for it. So there is this charm in evolution. And I've got to tell you, and you probably would be like, oh my God, but when we go to India, I'm going to take you to have Indian Italian food.
Oh no, I'm totally open. Are you kidding?
You'd be like, what? Because it's interesting. I grew up in India. To me, Italian food was that, right? Till the time I came over here, I'm like, oh, okay.
But then you didn't have real Italian. You had Italian American food.
Exactly. True. Till the time I went to Italy, and I'm like, okay. but that's the amazing fun about it.
And I think, there's a great book. When I started cooking, like, I was not a good student. I am dyslexic and I didn't do well in school. I have ADD. All of the above created that. Reading was very hard for me, right? Finally, when I was able to, it became an obsession. Like, how much knowledge could I input? And there was a book that was recommended to me by Raymond Sokoloff, which was called Why We Eat What We Eat. And it was all about the transformation and the routes of food to how it got where it got to: tomatoes, chocolates, chilies, pasta. And it really showed that everything that everybody thinks is, oh, it's this. No, it wasn't that. It came from here to make that. And I think that's very important, is understanding the history of how food came to be. And that's what you're talking about, like the Portuguese influence. Portuguese influenced Hawaiian food. Portuguese influenced so many.
Brazilian food, yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much culture because of traveling. They brought things with them. People decided to stay because they may have fallen in love with someone. They stayed, they left their culture there, they brought their foods there, and then it developed into a whole new flavor profile. So I think that's what's really powerful about food.
It is. It's like, and that's a conversation that, if you think about it, like, I know that you and I, we can talk the entire day, where like, and more about like different cuisines, or just even the spice routes, or how different things came to be where they are, and they still evolve. And I think that is, I mean, think about it, right? Because like, we are such an integral part of a evolution process, right? Like, what we leave behind in terms of the flavors or the techniques that we get to the picture, I think that's what makes it so exciting and so infectious to have that conversation. Like, oh my God, this is like, it literally gives me goosebumps to have these conversations.
So, it's really interesting. I had never seen fenugreek leaves, but
really?
I've used fenugreek before. So like, there's something, it's like, oh, what am I, stupid? Like, how did I not see them before? Like, it's like, there's stuff like that. And then all of a sudden we started getting them fresh from one of our farmers. And it was like, head just exploded. right? It's like
Fenugreek.
you start to try these things and it's just like, oh my God, like this is so cool. Like, what can we do? It's like, and the difference between dried and fresh and the intensity and like the lastingness of the oils from dried compared to the lightness and the aromatics of fresh, like, but then when you toast them, how it changes things, like that is powerful stuff.
Fenugreek, fresh fenugreek leaves and potatoes with, a flatbread parantha with homemade butter is that probably would be my last meal. My mom, she used to make it, and every time I would come back from college, that used to be what was waiting for me. And it just is, it's amazing. Like next time we meet, I'm going to make it for you. It's the simplest, it's the most humble of dishes, but it's incredible. And we actually have a local pasta maker who we made a spice blend of turmeric and fenugreek, and he made some pasta for us with that. And it just was just incredible. So yeah, it's amazing. And to me also, it's like there's so many of these new techniques and stuff, and you know what? I don't know if you feel that, but to me, I think I've become a stronger chef by judging, right? Because you get to see things that you've never seen before, right? Like even with chopped, like different ingredients and stuff that I'm like, oh my God, okay, this is a great ingredient. How can I use it? Like, your mind is constantly working, and that's what makes it so fun.
I think, judging also makes you think about, how do I plate? How does it eat? Perception, a lot of times we're putting things in the plate and we're like, this is going to be great. And then you sit and eat it and you're like, oh God, what was I thinking?
Or obviously I wasn't.
And I agree with you. And I think that's been it's also how to articulate those flavors to people. And that also allows you to communicate to your team to then help them explain to a guest to try something new. Right? Yeah. It's like putting familiar with things with unfamiliar things. It makes it a lot easier for a guest to try something. I think it's so true. It opens up the door. So I really want to talk about the book. An IACP award, International Association of Culinary Professionals, for the folks out there. That's a really big deal. It's no joke. And what made you want to pull this project together? Because it's street food. I mean, when you lay that tag on it, eating street food, that's a big choice of many, many different options.
So, it's really interesting. Growing up in India, we used to take trains. And these trains, just because like a train ticket was 100 rupees while a flight ticket was 10,000 rupees, like that was the disparity.
That would be an economic win.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. But these trains are unlike the trains over here. The windows are open, the doors are open. It would take 3 days, 3 nights. So from Eastern India, where we live, we would go to Southern India during summer holidays to my mom's parents, and winter holidays to Northern India to my dad's parents, right? And the train would stop at each and every train stop. And the amazing part about that was that all the local vendors, the food vendors, would come to sell their ware at the train station. So as I started getting older, I would identify these entire journeys by what I would eat at what station, right? And just because of the virtue of going by train, I got to taste the vastness of Indian cuisine, because it would change from one station to the other. Right? The flavors would change, the spices would change, the techniques would change. And to me, I really it was boring. This was before you could stream anything. We would be reading books like Tintin, Archie, comics, that's what we would be doing. So it was really entertainment was talking to the people in front of you. So to me, I would look forward to it because of the food. And that's been one of my favorite projects for the longest time, just to show the diversity of Indian food via the train. And this idea came to me when my daughter Shagun was born 10 years ago. And Jody and I spoke about it. We went to India at that time, and then it just fell through the cracks because life happened and stuff. Till the time we were like, listen, this is such a great project. So we met with, we were so lucky because Raquel Perez, who is, an editor at Clarkson Potter, she saw it and she associated with it. And then she gave us a direction that let's do it north, south, east, west, and this is how we'll do it. Let's do cities, let's do, memories. And so that's how this book came about. And it's definitely been a labor of love, and it's like they are personal stories which are in each and every chapter of why one dish made the book and the other didn't. And it's what I love about the book is that if anybody wants to just read it as a storybook, you can. If somebody wants to be a beginner in Indian cuisine, you can. If somebody wants to be, have an advanced course in Indian cuisine, you have recipes to show you that. So it is like, I think it just covers the entire gamut. And that, I think that is what makes it so much fun.
That's awesome. So I've clamored a much of your time here, and I really want to, we play a game here, and it's just a rapid fire question game. So
done. So ready.
Okay. We're going to keep it started simple, and then it just keeps ramping up and ramping up. Okay. Noodles, pasta.
Noodles.
Dumplings, ravioli.
Dumplings.
Brown spirits, white spirits.
Brown spirits.
Which brown spirit?
Right now, I'm in Nashville, so it's got to be bourbon, y'all.
Dark beer, light beer.
Light beer.
Red wine, white wine.
White wine.
Hamburger, hot dog.
Hamburger.
Ketchup, mustard.
Ketchup. I'll come back to that. We'll talk about that. There is a big controversy going on my Instagram page about that, but I'll get back to that. I've got
Onion
to tell
rings,
you about it.
French fries.
Onion rings.
Sashimi, nigiri.
Nigiri.
Sea urchin, caviar.
Sea urchin.
Lobster, crab.
Crab.
Blue crab, Dungeness crab.
Blue crab.
Soft shell, hard shell.
Soft shell.
There's more. Beef or pork?
Beef.
Duck or chicken?
Duck.
Brown rice, white rice?
White rice.
I like brown rice, but my son doesn't.
See, a lot of these answers are, I think it's not only because of the chef in you, but there is so much of nostalgia. Like to me, there is so much of nostalgia. And I'll tell you all, like there is an explanation as to why there is a lot of these choices. The chef in me keeps on like, oh, it should be the brown rice or it should be mustard. And then the kid in me who grew up, the kid in me who grew up with like ketchup on everything. And I'm like, that is what it is. Yes. So these are the most honest answers you're getting from me.
Which is, that's what it's all about. To me, and there are no wrong answers here. And I think that's what's really important. And I think it's a really fun way to do it. Thin crust or thick crust pizza?
Thin crust.
Man, it's fun, right? Your favorite guilty pleasure?
Vanilla ice cream with hot chocolate fudge and lots of candied pecans on it.
Wow.
Very specific. Very specific.
Favorite
that has gotten me through a lot of tough days. But the fudge needs to be the way I make it. So
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite fast food?
Does Chipotle count as fast food? Does Panda Express count as fast food?
No, they all count. Anywhere you walk up and it's like roast baked.
Yeah.
They all count. Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. One of these two.
Your last meal. Your favorite. If you're like, okay, you're sitting in the chair and they're going to pull the switch, what is going to be your last meal?
Homemade flatbread with homemade butter and mom's fenugreek potato saute with Vivek's chicken curry and white rice.
It's always
I'll go happy.
Yeah.
I'll go happy.
That's what it should be. So what's next for you?
You know what? I think,
Other than a break.
what's that?
Exactly.
That is definitely not next in the cards for me. But you know what? I think given how the last couple of years have been, what is priority for me is to make sure that what we have is strong and that is thriving. Because I mean, you know, the restaurants have taken a beating with COVID over the last couple of years. So to us, it's all about building that foundation, which is stronger, and just building on top of that. So it's and that's it. So there isn't a tangible path right now. Right now it is to repair what has been damaged and to just make it stronger.
Awesome. So if people want to find you, where's the best way for them to find you? On Instagram, which platform, all that?
I'm most active on Instagram, but I am on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and it's at Maneet Chauhan. So it's the same across. But if you want an answer from me, probably on Instagram, you'll get it.
She responds, I can tell you that.
Nothing better to do.
Awesome. Maneet, thank you so much for taking time. I know you're super busy. You've got shows to shoot and kids to hang out with, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Oh my God, thank you. This was so much fun.
Awesome.